In this video, we're going to take a look at cell membrane structure. You can see in this cell membrane, I've got a lot of things going on. We've got our phospholipid bilayer, our carb chains, which are up here. We've got cholesterol chilling in the middle, keeping things loose. And we have this blue protein here. The cell membrane structure is going to determine its function, as all things. There are a couple of really important things to note about the cell membrane. The first is that it is not rigid, it is very fluid. It moves around, and that's good because it prevents your cells from just snapping apart all the time. The second part determines how things get transported back and forth, and that is the inside of the bilayer, where the fatty acid tails of the phospholipids are located, is hydrophobic, and the outside here and here is hydrophilic. It's also important to note that this is a bilayer, meaning that there are two rows of our phospholipids, and the tails kind of hide in the middle. Carb chains show on the top because they help with cell-to-cell recognition, but I'll get to that later. Let's break down all of the different parts of our cell membrane. The biggest part, and the part that makes up the most of the cell membrane, is our phospholipid, which makes up the bilayer. And the phospholipid is unique and weird because it is both hydrophobic and hydrophilic. This top part here is a phosphate, or the phospho in our phospholipid, and it is hydrophilic, or water-loving, and it's going to face the outside and inside of the cell. The outside and inside of the cell are very water-based. The cytoplasm, or the cytosol, has a ton, about 70% actually, of water floating around in there. So the fatty acid tails are not about that. These fatty acid tails are going to be hydrophobic, as most fats are. They do not mix with water at all. So they kind of huddle in the middle and they don't mix with any of the water parts of the cell. Because of that hydrophobic center of the membrane, that is why only non-polar hydrophobic molecules can pass through the middle of the bilayer, which you can see in the passive transport video. And polar molecules have to go through a bridge in the form of a protein. Proteins are embedded in the bilayer, and they are going to be like little bridges from the water-based extracellular matrix, or space in between cells, and the water-based cytoplasm, or cytosol. So they're a very safe place for polar molecules to travel back and forth, and that is actually called facilitated diffusion. There are other proteins that hang out in the extracellular matrix part of the cell, sort of on the top of the membrane, that are going to help with cell signaling, and those are called receptor proteins. There are also special types of proteins that have little glucose or carbs attached to them, and those are called glycoproteins. And we also have glycolipids as well, and both of these have the exact same function. They are both located on the outside portion of the cell membrane facing the extracellular matrix, or the space between cells, and they are used as a chemical name tag saying, hey, I am part of this body and I am a good cell. So these are going to help with cell-to-cell recognition. These let white blood cells know that your cells are good and they do not need to be destroyed. And this helps differentiate bacterial cells that get into your body from your cells, so your immune system doesn't confuse your good cells for some foreign invader. And it's just going to help keep you nice and healthy. Lastly, we have cholesterol, which in small amounts is good, but obviously too much is going to affect your hormone levels of things that regulate your blood pressure, which can lead to heart disease if you have too much. But cholesterol is actually super necessary, and it is in the membrane to help keep it nice and fluid. It is located inside of the bilayer, kind of chilling with the fatty acids. It's also hydrophobic, so it's going to not really like being around water, so it huddles in the center of the cell membrane. So let's put all of this together. Putting all of these pieces together is called the fluid mosaic model, because it is many different pieces that come and make one picture. And you can see we've got our phospholipids here, which are making up our lovely bilayer, hydrophobic in the middle. And we've got our lovely protein, which is going to allow polar molecules to travel in and out. We have our glycoproteins up here, which are going to help with cell-to-cell recognition, telling other cells and neighboring cells that, oh, hey, I'm, the right cell to be in this place. And then you've got cholesterol chilling in the middle of the bilayer. So that, in a nutshell, is the structure of our lovely cell membrane.